Today on TJ's Reef, we're going to find out if a bigger tank means a better tank.
That's a big tank.
Hey everyone, sorry for interrupting the video, but make sure you stick to the very end of this episode for a sneak peek at something and some other cool information about stuff coming up soon. Stay tuned. Hey there everyone, welcome to another episode of TJ's Reef. I'm TJ, and I am starting over because that sucked!
Okay, watch your baby eat the copepods off the snails later.
Well, I'm glad you're able to watch the fish eat copepods. Can you describe it in vivid detail for the viewers?
The part is the snail is pulling up another shell, so he's falling backwards, and that keeps pushing baby back to the corner, but he's still eating.
So, whatever. Let's try this again. Hi there everyone, and welcome to another edition of TJ's Reef. I'm TJ, and this episode we're going to talk about whether a bigger tank is a better tank. Now, there's been a lot of debate on whether or not a really large aquarium is better than a smaller one. And, that really depends on what your definition of better is. Now, I think in most regards, the size of the tank really doesn't matter. We'll get into details in a little bit, but it all comes down to a number of things. Number one is, how much money do you want to spend? Number two, how much time do you want to devote to your tank? And number three, maybe consider what you want to put in the tank. Understanding those three things, let's discuss a couple of finer points. First of all, cost. Now, some people, I think, are outright rude when they say, if you can't afford X, then you don't belong in this hobby. That's crap. I think that's mean-spirited to say people can get into this hobby for whatever amount they want to. Free? Who knows? Sometimes you can get tanks and equipment for free. Sometimes you get frags for free. You're going to have to buy something at some point, so I really wouldn't expect it to be entirely free. But to do it at a lower cost, understanding that it might limit some of the things you're able to do, or some of the animals or fish or tank inhabitants that you're able to keep, it doesn't mean it's impossible. Now, you can go overboard, tens and tens of thousands of dollars in lighting and equipment and tanks and all the bells and whistles that go with it. Doesn't mean you're going to have any better success than someone who buys a used tank offline and used lights. Really what it comes down to is patience and maintaining tank stability. And tank stability is one of the big issues that we're going to talk about when it comes to a bigger tank versus a smaller tank. So cost really doesn't play a role on whether you're going to have better success with a smaller tank versus a bigger tank. It's just going to be less money to start up a smaller tank than a bigger tank. That's just because tanks and the equipment you're going to need to run them are just more expensive. You may have a 40-gallon like I have and get away with one light versus a 200-gallon, which now you need 4 lights, depending what you want to keep. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as maintenance goes, maintenance is the same regardless of your tank. Let me say it again. Maintenance is the same regardless of the tank size you have. I don't care if you have a 10-gallon nano on your desk at work or you have a 1,000-gallon in-wall system in your home. You still have to do maintenance on them. And it's going to be pretty much equal. You're going to have to do water changes. Now, you may have an automated water changer on your 1,000-gallon, and the person that has the 10 gallons, they have to do it by hand, but they still have to be done. You still have to top off your water. You still have to watch your parameters. You still have to check and dose and do all the things that you would normally do regardless of the tank size. So maintenance is the same across the board. Now, stability. I mentioned it before. Stability is the big one when it comes to tank sizes. Now, I wouldn't say bigger is better, but I would generally say that bigger is definitely more stable. That's just because you have more volume to work with. A 10-gallon nano one little thing goes off, the whole thing could go off. 1,000-gallon tank, it's going to be a lot harder to swing parameters by a little mistake. For example, your auto top off on a smaller tank like my 40 goes haywire and pours a ton of water into a tank. Let's say it puts 5 gallons of fresh water into my tank. That's going to be a problem. An auto top off on a larger tank puts 5 gallons in before it's caught. The system probably didn't even blink an eye. So understand that stability is where it's going to come into play. Now you're probably wondering, why do I have these 2 containers here? Well, that's because we're going to do an experiment. We're going to show you how quickly stability can go haywire between our small tank and our large tank. So let's check it out. Okay, so I said we were going to do a little experiment showing why a bigger tank might be more stable than a smaller tank. Doesn't mean it's better, just means it can be more stable under certain circumstances than a smaller tank. Specifically, let's talk about temperature. Now here we have a small tank and a large tank. Obviously this doesn't hold as much as this. And here I have a pitcher of hot water, and I'm going to pour some of it, all over the table apparently, into there, and the rest of it into here. Now much more water in this one than the small one, and let's see which one cools down more in about 15 minutes. So here's the current temperature, and we'll check back in about 15 minutes. Okay, so let's see how we did. Here we have the glass of water. The small one, which is representing our small tank, has been sitting out and is currently at 91 degrees exactly. So let's see what the temperature is in the big one. Well, as it goes up, it's quite obvious that the larger one held the temperature longer than the small one. What are we at, 105 and change? So that's what, 9, 14, almost 15 degrees difference. So, that's why I say a larger tank can be more stable than a smaller tank. And if something does go wrong, it can take, longer for it to be a significant issue with a larger tank than a smaller tank. Again, doesn't mean it's better, but it's just one example of, why a bigger tank might be better suited for a newer reef keeper than someone who has experience that can maintain things in a smaller environment a little bit easier. So yeah, there we go. Boom. At the end of the day, you have to decide what kind of system you want, whether it's a large one or a small one. If it's a larger one, understand that, yeah, it's probably going to be a little more expensive on the upkeep and a little bit more expensive up front, but in the long run, you have to work just as hard as the person with the smaller tank. And for those of you that have smaller tanks, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't always have to have the biggest tank in the reef keeping forum. Small tanks can be just as amazing as larger tanks. Now, having said that, I do want a larger tank. You know what? Maybe I did forget one other thing when it comes to how big of a tank you can go with. Limiting factor might be your partner. Babe, can I have a larger tank?
I can't hear you.
Can I have a larger tank?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. I'm yelling.
I have a puppy?
No, you can't have a puppy. It's worth a shot. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode of TJ's Reef. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments down below. Down there. And make sure to smash that subscribe button. Check out our Instagram page under TJ's Reef. Links to everything are down in the description for this episode. And check out our playlist so you can check out all the other episodes in case you haven't seen them all. Until next time, thanks for stopping by my reef. Take care. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. Now here's the surprise. We've got a new set. I think this is a lot better than that stupid white background you had to live through for this episode. I promise, no more boring white backgrounds. We're trying to make this look a lot better, have better information, have a better look and feel to it. We want to take any suggestions anyone may have. So I hope this is the beginning of a lot of fun that we're going to have on this channel and our new channel. I'm not going to announce what it is yet, but it is not reef related. Well, it might be, but it's going to be a little bit of everything. It's going to be a lot of fun, I hope. And more information about that soon, but I'd like to show you how we transitioned this space into what it is today. So take a look. We're going to take all this clutter out of here and over here and make this area the new studio. Stay tuned.